This Let's Edit with Media Composer tutorial is brought to you by VideoGuys.com, the leading reseller of video editing and production equipment for more than 25 years. Check out VideoGuys.com for great deals on Avid Media Composer software licenses, subscriptions, and upgrades, and use coupon code MC101 for 5% off any purchase. Hey everyone, Kevin P McAuliffe here, and I am back again with another Media Composer 101 tutorial. And in our continuing look at creating DVDs from higher than HD resolutions, in this case 4K, let's take a look at actually compressing the files. These are the actual MPEG and AC3 files that we're going to use inside of our DVD creation application. In this lesson, we're going to take a look at 3 different applications that you can use. We're going to take a look at Apple's Compressor, we're going to take a look at Sorenson Squeeze, and we're going to take a look at Adobe's Media Encoder, and I'm going to show you in each one of these applications how you can get in, compress the files the way that you need them so that you can get in and use them in your DVD creation program with no problems at all. Okay, short introduction here. Let's just get into Adobe's Media Encoder and let's get started. Okay, now before I get started, I do just want to remind you that at the end of the last lesson, we did export our anamorphic shot here. You can see that the shot is stretched to fill the frame. We didn't export it as widescreen, and you're going to see how we can set that up in just a second. But this clip basically has video and audio, and it's ready for us to work with. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to close that clip. Let's Command and Tab into Adobe's Media Encoder, obviously an Alt and Tab for my Windows friends out there. Now what most people think, and they pretty much think, okay, this is a pretty simple process. All I need to do, first of all, is simply take my clip and drag it and drop it into the queue. Now the next thing we need to do is we need to find a preset, because in most cases presets are how you're going to get most of your work done lightning quick. And you can see that in the preset drop down right here in the DVD and Blu-ray section, we do have a section for DVD, and if I troll that down, you'll see that if I exported a 23976 widescreen file, this would be the preset that I would use right here, but it's not. What I want to use is just the simple NTSC DV wide right here. What I'm going to do is I'm simply going to take that and I'm going to drag it right over here on top of my SD DVD. Now I'm going to come over here and I'm just going to click on the settings here just so we can get in and see what's going on. Now you'll see in the video section, this is where we can get in, we can set our quality, set our frame rate. Now the field order is important. Because we are in standard definition NTSC, it will always be lower field first. And of course, because we do want this clip to be widescreen, you'll see that we have that selected. Of course, down here we can get in, we can set our bit rate. It's just set to be variable 1 pass, which I'm happy with. And that's pretty much all we need to worry about as far as the video settings go. Now, as far as the audio settings go, you're going to want to decide right here between Dolby Digital, MPEG, or PCM. Now for me, normally Dolby Digital is the way that I go. You can leave the bit rate at 192 if you want. Sometimes I have it set at 128. It's really your own personal preference. Now you'll see that Encoder knows that this clip is 2.0. It's flagging it as being 2.0 left and right. So basically I'm all set to go, or so I think. What I'm going to do is simply say okay, and I'm going to compress this file. Now you're going to see down here in the preview window something is going on. This clip isn't exactly the way that I need it to be. Now we're going to give it a second just to finish processing here. And once it's done, what I'm going to do is I'm simply going to double click on the clip. Now you'll see that it's the right aspect here. It's 872 by 480. The only problem is the clip is not actually stretching out properly to fill the frame. So what exactly is going on here? What's going on is that I haven't set the clip up properly inside of Media Encoder. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to delete these right here. Now, if you're familiar with Adobe's After Effects, you're familiar with getting in and interpreting footage. Well, that's also very important inside of Media Encoder as well. Because this clip I exported as a 720 by 480 size file, I need to get in and flag it as being widescreen so that when Media Encoder encodes it, it's going to actually encode it as widescreen 16 by 9. And how we do that is very simple. Much like in After Effects, we're going to come up to our clip and I'm simply going to right click on it. And what I actually have to do first is I got to reset the status. Now, if you've only just dragged the clip in, you're not going to have to do that. The only reason I have to do that is because I've already processed this clip. But once we have it back and set to go, what I'm going to do is simply right click and say Interpret Footage. You're going to see right down here under the pixel aspect ratio, I want to conform this pixel aspect ratio to be D1 DV NTSC widescreen. Now, of course, if you're working in PAL, you're going to want to set this up as PAL widescreen, but we're working in DV D1 NTSC. I'm simply going to say OK, and now when I say go, you'll see that this is now the proper widescreen format And when it's done here in just a second, we'll basically be all set to go inside of Media Encoder. So what I'm going to do is simply double click on the clip here. Let me just actually hide Media Encoder. There we go. You'll see now I can drag through, and there's my proper widescreen shot, ready to be taken and dropped into whatever program we might want to use it with. Okay, so let's move on, and I think the program we're going to tackle next is Sorenson Squeeze. Basically what I'm doing is I'm going to show you the two most common applications, whether you're on Mac or whether you're on Windows, and then I'm going to cover Compressor last, specifically for the Mac users out there. Okay, so let's Command Tab into Sorenson Squeeze. Now this is Sorenson Squeeze 10 Pro. Now this technique is pretty much going to work, pretty far back inside of Squeeze, whether you're using 7, 8, 9 or new 10 Pro. The technique is going to be more or less the same. So again, we're going to do the exact same thing. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to remove these files that I compressed from Adobe's Media Encoder from my desktop, and let's take our SD DVD, and we're just going to simply take it and drag it and drop it again right down here. And the next thing we need to do is, of course, again, pick a preset. You'll see that everything is pretty much done on presets. And so what we're going to do for presets is we're going to stick with our workflow tab right over here. Now the workflow that we want to do is to create a disk. Now you're going to see when I twirl this down, I do have two options. Again, Blu-ray authoring and DVD. I twirl that down and I now have two options. I have the elementary streams and the program streams. So what's the difference? Well, you'll see that if I come into the program streams and I select the very first one, which is the 16:9 widescreen preset, and I drag that preset right over here and drop it onto my clip, it's not giving me the proper M2V extension that I'm going to need. You'll see if I twirl down the preset, the video and the audio are both set to be MPEG video and audio. Well, what's basically happening is this clip is being multiplexed together, basically meaning that the video and audio are being compressed into one file, which we don't want, because programs like Adobe's Encore is going to take this file and recompress it, separating the video and audio. So we want to make sure that we're always working with M2V and in most cases AC3 audio. So how we do that is very simple. What I'm going to do, just delete this preset. We're just going to come up to our elementary stream here, and I'm going to choose the ES 16:9 NTSC because we don't want to do an ISO image. Now you're going to see that the preset's called disk burn, which is fine. We'll remove that part of the preset. I'm simply going to take it, drag and drop onto our clip. I'm going to come down here. You'll see that the last option we have is to burn to DVD, which I don't want. We're going to actually do that with a different application. And what we want to do inside of here is I'm going to simply double click on the preset. Now you'll see that this looks very complicated. Lots of stuff going on here. I don't need to see the advanced menus here inside of the video compression settings. What I want to do is just see the simple options. Now you'll see that we're set to be MPEG-2 video, NTSC, 2-pass variable. You'll see that 9,000 kilobits per second is a little bit too much because we know that 8,000 is the maximum we can have for DVD. So why don't I just set this to be something like, maybe not even 120, maybe we'll just set it to be 100. That's probably pretty good. I mean, the target rate is 6,000 kilobits per second, so I think we're good. Now, we are working with 16:9, and we know that because if I go into the advanced settings, you'll see that our pixel aspect ratio is set to be 16:9. The only catch is that we don't want to letterbox or pillar box the footage because we'll run into the same problem that we ran into inside of Media Encoder. What we want to do is make sure that the video is unconstrained. All we have to do now is we can actually come to the audio tab first. You'll see right now we're set to be a Dolby AC3, data rate a little bit too much, maybe 128. I think we're good. Again, like I said, all we need to do is simply come to OK. Once we're ready to go, I'm simply going to say squeeze it. And you're going to see that in a matter of seconds, again, these processes, once they get going, are normally very quick. You'll see, here we go. 2-pass, I could have just done 1-pass if I wanted to, but 2-pass, it says less than 5 minutes. It'll be less than probably about 20 seconds. But once this is done, we're going to again be left with one M2V file for the video, and of course one AC3 file for the audio. We're already on pass 2, you'll see, very quick. Now of course the question's going to come up, well Kev, which one of these applications should I use? And to be perfectly honest, the answer is whichever one you're most comfortable with. Most people out there are working with, if you're not a Media Composer editor, you're going to be using Adobe's Media Encoder, chances are because you're on the subscription plan from Adobe. A lot of Media Composer editors have access to Sorenson Squeeze. Sorenson Squeeze I love, it's a great application. They're really both great applications, so it's really personal preference. Again, you'll see I'll come to my M2V file. I'm just going to hide Sorenson Squeeze here for a second. Let's just drag through, and there we go again. We're all set to go with this clip to use in whatever DVD compression program we might want to use it with. Okay, what I'm going to do again is I'm just going to quit out of QuickTime Player. Again, let's trash both these files, because now we're going to move on, and this one's going to be for my Mac friends out there. I just want to show you how you can do the same process if you happen to be using Apple's Compressor. Okay, so let's Command and Tab into Apple's Compressor. Of course, we need our clip to work with, so I'm simply going to take my SD DVD clip. I'm going to drag and drop it over here onto the Add File button. Once there, you'll see that with the clip selected, I can actually see what my clip is looking like. Very nice. And then what I need to do is I need to add the presets, the M2V preset and the AC3 preset. So to do that, I'm simply going to add some outputs. You'll see that in the Create DVD preset, I do of course have access to the AC3 preset and the M2V preset. So all I'm going to do is simply say OK. Once those presets are there, I want, in most cases I'm going to want to get in and make some minor modifications to them, much like I did in Media Encoder and of course in Sorenson Squeeze. So all I'm going to do first of all is to select my MPEG-2 for DVD. And I now need to show the inspector. And to do that, very simple. Right up here in the upper right-hand corner, let's show the inspector. Now you'll see we have the general section first where we can get in and make some minor modifications. But in most cases, what we're going to want to do is head right to the video section. Now for us, what we're going to want to make sure that we do is we're going to want to get in and set our anamorphic setting to be 16:9. Now we can get in, obviously make some more minor modifications if we wanted to, like bit rates and things like that, because the bit rate here is a little bit actually too high. Let me just bring that down here a little bit. Make it about 4, we'll make it about 7. I think that's pretty good, okay? And of course for our audio, I think that if I come into the audio settings here, let's just see, 192, that's actually pretty good. Like I said, before I set it to 128 or 192, you're pretty much good to go. All I now need to do is pretty much come down and say Start Batch. Now once I start the batch, you're going to see that it appears over here in the active category. And Compressor works pretty darn quick. So you're going to see literally in a matter of seconds, we're now going to have that M2V file and the AC3 file ready to go. And basically when it's done, you're going to see on the desktop that what I now have, of course, is that MPEG-2 M2V file, of course in widescreen, ready to work with in any DVD creation program I might want to use it in. Okay, so that wraps up our look at taking our files and compressing them and getting them ready for DVD. In our final lesson, which is coming up next week, we're going to talk about actually making the DVD. I'm going to show you how simple it is to do using Adobe's Encore, and I'm going to show you Mac users out there why you might want to use a program that you might already have access to in your computer to really make those DVDs lightning quick. Now, before I wrap up this lesson, I want to thank our sponsor Video Guys, and don't forget to check them out and use coupon code MC101 for 5% off your Avid purchase or any other purchase including G Technology storage, software plugins, and so much more. And if you like this tutorial, please click that subscribe button, and don't forget that if you have any questions, you have any comments, or you have any tutorial requests, you can post them in the comment section below this lesson, or you can send them to kevinpmcauliffe@gmail.com. This has been Kevin P. McAuliffe. Thanks a lot for watching.